The morning Willa Jensen was handed over to Silas Rutherford to settle her father's debts, she decided she would rather die than live as property. Ruby City, Idaho looked bleaker than usual that October day in 1878, the mountain air biting through her worn calico dress as she stood on the porch of the saloon, where her father had gambled away everything they owned and more. The whiskey-soaked wretch who had raised her could not even look her in the eye as he signed the papers that transferred ownership of his only daughter to the most ruthless businessman in 3 territories. Silas Rutherford, with his silver beard and cold eyes, inspected her like she was livestock, and Willa felt her soul shatter into pieces so small she wondered if she would ever be whole again. "She will do," Rutherford said, his voice dry as desert sand. 23 years old, healthy enough. "She will work in my household until the debt is paid. Should take about 10 years given the interest." 10 years. Willa's father, Thomas Jensen, nodded weakly, his hands trembling. He had lost $5,000 at the poker table over the course of 6 months. Money he did not have. Money he had borrowed from Rutherford with promises he could never keep. When the debt came due, he had nothing left to offer but his daughter. The law would not protect her. Women had few rights, and debts were sacred in the West. Rutherford could do whatever he pleased with her, and everyone in Ruby City knew the man's reputation. His last 3 housekeepers had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and no one asked questions because Rutherford owned half the town. "Get your things," Rutherford ordered, and Willa turned to go back into the miserable shack she had called home, but there was nothing worth taking. Everything of value had been sold months ago. She owned the dress on her back, a pair of worn boots, and a locket her mother had given her before dying of fever when Willa was 12. That locket was the only thing in the world she cared about, and she clutched it now, feeling the cool metal against her palm. As she walked back onto the porch, a cowboy rode up on a tall roan horse, dust rising from the animal's hooves. Willa had seen him around town before, a ranch hand who worked at the Quinn spread about 10 miles north of Ruby City. He was young, maybe 25 or 26, with dark hair that curled slightly under his hat and eyes the color of summer sky. His name was Jack Quinn, and he was the youngest son of the ranch owner. People said he was honest to a fault, that he worked harder than any 3 men combined, and that he had a quiet strength about him that made even the roughest cowboys respect him. Jack dismounted and tied his horse to the post, his gaze sweeping over the scene. His eyes lingered on Willa, taking in her pale face and the way she held herself rigid, like she might break if she allowed herself to feel anything. Then his attention shifted to Rutherford, and his jaw tightened. "Silas," Jack said, his voice even but cold. "Did not expect to see you conducting business on a Sunday morning." "My business is my own, Quinn," Rutherford replied. "I suggest you move along." Jack did not move. Instead, he looked at Thomas Jensen, who was doing his best to become invisible. "Tom, what is happening here?" Thomas could not answer. Shame had stolen his voice. It was Willa who spoke, her words sharp and bitter. "My father sold me to pay his gambling debts. Mr. Rutherford now owns me for the next 10 years unless I die first, which seems the preferable option." Jack's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes, something dangerous. "That is not legal." "It is a contract," Rutherford said, pulling the document from his coat pocket. "Signed and witnessed. The girl works for me until the debt is satisfied, all above board." Jack took the contract and read it, his face growing darker with each line. Willa watched him, wondering why he cared. They had never spoken before. She was nobody, the daughter of a drunk, and he was a Quinn, a family that had built a successful cattle ranch through hard work and integrity. Their worlds should never have touched. This contract says she is your property, Jack said slowly. Not an employee, property. Semantics, Rutherford replied with a shrug. The law allows for indentured servitude to satisfy debts. Her father agreed to the terms. Her father is a fool, Jack said flatly, and Thomas flinched. But she is not. Willa, did you sign this? No, Willa said. I was not asked to sign. I was told this morning that I belonged to Mr. Rutherford now. Jack turned to Rutherford, and the air between them crackled with tension. She did not consent. This contract is worthless. Her consent is not required, Rutherford said, his patience wearing thin. The debt is her father's, but he used her as collateral. It is all legal. It is immoral, Jack said, and then he did something that made Willa's heart stop. He tore the contract in half, then into quarters, then into pieces so small they fluttered to the ground like snow. Rutherford's face turned purple with rage. You have no right. That contract represented $5,000 plus interest. You just destroyed a legal document. Sue me, Jack said calmly. Then he turned to Willa. You do not have to go with him. Come with me instead. Willa stared at him, unable to process what was happening. I do not understand. I am offering you a choice, Jack said. You can go with Rutherford and spend the next 10 years as his property, or you can come with me. My family's ranch needs help and we pay fair wages. You would be an employee, not property. You would be free. She is not free, Rutherford snarled. She is collateral for a debt, and destroying that contract does not erase what is owed. I will have the sheriff arrest you for destruction of property. The sheriff is my cousin, Jack said, and he does not take kindly to men who enslave women. Try your luck if you want, Silas, but I promise you will not like the outcome. Rutherford looked like he wanted to shoot Jack where he stood, but he was not a fool. The Quinns were respected in Idaho territory, and they had friends in high places. If he pushed this, he might find himself on the wrong end of a legal battle he could not win. Still, he could not let this go without a fight. The debt remains, Rutherford said. Thomas Jensen owes me $5,000 and I will collect one way or another. I will pay it, Jack said, and everyone froze. Willa found her voice. You cannot do that. $5,000 is a fortune. My family has money, Jack said. We will manage, but I will not stand by and watch a man sell his daughter like she is a piece of furniture. Why? Willa demanded, suspicion mixing with hope. Why would you do this for me? We do not even know each other. Jack looked at her, and for a moment the world narrowed to just the two of them. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. And because no one deserves to be treated like property. Rutherford saw his opportunity slipping away and tried one last time. You will pay the full amount. $5,000 plus 6 months of interest at 15%. Jack did not hesitate. I will pay $5,000. Not a cent more. Your interest rates are criminal, and I will not reward you for preying on desperate people. Then we have no deal, Rutherford said. Then take me to court, Jack replied. Explain to a judge why you think you are entitled to charge 15% interest on a gambling debt. Explain why you think it is legal to own a human being. See how that works out for you. Rutherford's eyes narrowed, and Willa could see him calculating. He was a businessman, and he knew when to cut his losses. $5,000, paid in full within 1 week, or the debt stands and the girl is mine. Agreed, Jack said. I will bring you the money in 3 days. 3 days, Rutherford repeated. If you are 1 minute late, the deal is off. He turned and walked to his carriage, his movements stiff with anger. As he climbed inside, he looked at Willa one last time. You think he is your savior, girl? Men like Jack Quinn do not do anything without expecting something in return. You will find that out soon enough. The carriage rolled away, leaving an awful silence in its wake. Thomas Jensen finally found the courage to look at his daughter, but Willa turned away from him. "I never want to see you again," she said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "You are dead to me." Thomas opened his mouth, closed it, then shuffled back into the shack without a word. Willa knew she should feel something for him, pity or anger or grief, but all she felt was empty. Jack waited until Thomas was gone, then said gently, "You do not have to come with me if you do not want to." "I meant what I said about choice. I can find you a room in town, help you find work somewhere else. You do not owe me anything." Willa looked at him, this stranger who had just spent a fortune to save her from a fate worse than death, and made her decision. "I will come with you. But I will work to pay back every cent. I will not be in debt to anyone, not ever again." "Fair enough," Jack said. "Let us go home." The ride to the Quinn ranch took 2 hours, and Willa spent most of it in silence, sitting behind Jack on his horse. She had never been this close to a man who was not her father, and it felt strange and terrifying and oddly safe all at once. Jack did not try to make conversation, sensing that she needed time to process everything that had happened. The mountains rose around them, covered in pine trees that swayed in the October wind, and the air smelled of wood smoke and coming winter. The Quinn Ranch was bigger than Willa had expected, a sprawling collection of buildings nestled in a valley with a river running through it. The main house was 2 stories, built of sturdy logs and stone, with a wide porch and windows that gleamed in the afternoon sun. There were barns and corrals, a bunkhouse for the ranch hands, and fields where cattle grazed peacefully. It looked like something from a dream, a place where people could build a life and be happy. Jack helped her dismount, and Willa stumbled slightly, her legs stiff from the ride. He steadied her with a hand on her elbow, and she felt the strength in his grip, the calluses on his palm from years of hard work. "Come inside," Jack said. "You can meet my family." Willa's stomach clenched with anxiety. What would his family think of him bringing home a strange woman? What if they were angry that he had spent so much money on her? But Jack seemed unconcerned as he led her up the porch steps and into the house. The interior was warm and welcoming, with comfortable furniture and rugs on the wooden floors. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace, and the smell of cooking food made Willa realize she had not eaten since yesterday. A woman appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She was in her 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes, and she smiled when she saw Jack. "There you are," she said. "I was starting to worry. Who is this?" "Ma, this is Willa Jensen," Jack said. "She is going to be staying with us for a while. Willa, this is my mother, Mary Quinn." Mary's smile faltered slightly as she took in Willa's appearance, the tear-stained face and worn dress, but she recovered quickly. "Welcome, dear. You look like you have had a difficult day. Come sit down and I will get you something to eat." "Thank you," Willa managed, her voice barely above a whisper. She felt overwhelmed by the kindness, the normalcy of it all. An hour ago, she had been owned by a man who would have worked her to death. Now she was being offered food and shelter by strangers. Jack's father came in from outside, a tall man with silver hair and the same blue eyes as his son. "Jack, did you finish in town?" Then he noticed Willa. "Who is this?" "We need to talk, Pa," Jack said. "Privately." They went into another room, and Willa could hear the murmur of voices but not the words. Mary kept her busy, setting out bread and stew and tea, chattering about the weather and the ranch, and anything that would keep Willa from dwelling on her situation. Willa ate mechanically, tasting nothing, her mind spinning when Jack and his father emerged. The older man looked grim but not angry. He came over to Willa and held out his hand. "I am James Quinn. My son told me what happened in town. You are welcome here for as long as you need." Willa shook his hand, feeling the roughness of his skin, the warmth of his grip. "Thank you, Mr. Quinn. I will work hard to pay back what your son spent on me." "We will figure all that out later," James said. "Right now you need rest. Mary, can you set up the guest room?" "Already done," Mary said. "Come on, dear. I will show you where you will be sleeping." The guest room was small but clean, with a real bed and a window that looked out over the valley. Willa stood in the doorway, unable to move, unable to believe this was real. "I know this is all very sudden," Mary said gently. "But you are safe here. No one will hurt you. Try to get some rest and we will talk more tomorrow." Willa nodded, not trusting herself to speak. When Mary left, closing the door softly behind her, Willa sat on the edge of the bed and let herself cry for the first time in years. She cried for her lost childhood, for her mother who had died too young, for the father who had betrayed her. She cried for the terror of that morning, the humiliation of being sold like an animal. And she cried because she did not know how to accept kindness, did not know if she deserved it. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her, and she lay down fully clothed on top of the blankets. She fell asleep within minutes, her hand clutching her mother's locket. Over the next few days, Willa began to understand the rhythm of life on the Quinn ranch. Everyone woke before dawn, and there was always work to be done. Mary taught her how to cook for a large household, how to preserve food for winter, how to mend clothes and tend the vegetable garden. Willa threw herself into the work, desperate to prove her worth, terrified that if she was not useful, they would send her away. Jack was around but kept his distance, and Willa was grateful for that. She did not know how to act around him, this man who had saved her life. He was unfailingly polite, always asked if she needed anything, but he never pushed for conversation or tried to invade her space. She would catch him watching her sometimes, his expression thoughtful, and she would look away, confused by the strange flutter in her chest. On the third day, Jack rode back into town with a saddlebag full of money. He returned that evening and found Willa in the kitchen, helping Mary prepare supper. "It is done," he said. "Rutherford has been paid. The debt is settled." Willa set down the knife she was holding, her hands shaking. "Thank you," she said, the words inadequate for what she felt. "I will pay you back, I promise." "We can discuss that later," Jack said. "Right now you should know that you are free, legally completely free. Rutherford has no claim on you, free." Willa had not been truly free since her mother died, and even before that, poverty and her father's drinking had been chains around her neck. She did not know what to do with freedom, did not know how to hold it without crushing it. That night, unable to sleep, Willa went outside and sat on the porch steps, looking up at the stars. The night was cold, and she pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Jack, carrying a blanket. "Thought you might need this," he said, holding it out. "Gets cold at night this time of year." "Thank you," Willa said, accepting the blanket. Jack sat down beside her, leaving a respectable distance between them, and they sat in silence for a while. "I owe you an explanation," Jack said finally. "About why I did what I did." "You said it was the right thing to do," Willa replied. "It was," Jack agreed, "but there is more to it than that." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "When I was 15, my older sister ran away from home. She was 18, and our parents wanted her to marry a man she did not love, a wealthy rancher who could have given her a comfortable life. She refused, and when they pushed, she disappeared in the middle of the night. We searched for months, sent telegrams to every town within 100 miles, but we never found her." Willa's breath caught. "I am sorry." 2 years later we got a letter," Jack continued, his voice thick with old pain. "She had been working in a saloon in Montana, trying to earn enough money to start a new life. A man there claimed she owed him money, said she had stolen from him. She ended up in a situation similar to yours, working off a debt that kept growing no matter how hard she worked. She died there, Willa. She was 20 years old. Tears burned in Willa's eyes. Jack, I do not know what to say. When I saw you this morning, saw what your father was doing to you, I saw my sister, Jack said. I could not save her, but I could save you. Maybe that makes me selfish, trying to fix the past by changing the present, but I do not regret it. Willa turned to look at him, really look at him, and saw the grief and determination in his face. You are not selfish, she said firmly. You are the best man I have ever met, and I will spend the rest of my life being grateful that you came along when you did. Jack met her gaze, and something shifted between them, some invisible wall crumbling. You do not owe me gratitude, Willa. You do not owe me anything. I want you to understand that. I know, Willa said softly, but I am grateful anyway. They sat together under the stars, and for the first time since her mother died, Willa felt like maybe, just maybe, life could be good again. The weeks turned into months, and autumn gave way to winter. Snow covered the mountains, and the work on the ranch shifted to caring for the animals and keeping everyone fed and warm. Willa learned to ride a horse, a skill Jack taught her with patient determination. She was terrified at first, convinced she would fall and break her neck, but Jack was always there, his voice calm and encouraging. You are doing great, he would say when she managed to stay in the saddle for more than a few minutes. You are a natural. I am not, Willa would reply, laughing despite her fear. I am barely hanging on. That is all any of us are doing, Jack said with a grin. Just hanging on and hoping for the best. Willa found herself looking forward to these lessons, to the time she spent with Jack. He made her laugh, something she had not done in years. He told her stories about growing up on the ranch, about the trouble he and his brothers used to get into, about the time they tried to break a wild Mustang and ended up chasing it for 3 days before giving up. He asked her about her life too, and Willa found herself opening up in ways she never had before. My mother was the strong one, Willa said one afternoon as they rode along the river. My father was always weak, always looking for the easy way out, but my mother, she kept us going. She worked herself to death trying to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. When she died, it was like the sun went out. My father just gave up after that. What was she like? Jack asked gently. Kind, Willa said, smiling at the memory. She was so kind, even when she had every reason to be bitter. She used to sing while she worked, these old songs her mother taught her. She made everything feel okay, even when it was not. She sounds wonderful, Jack said. She was, Willa agreed. I wish you could have met her. Winter deepened, and the ranch settled into a quiet routine. Willa had never been happier. Mary treated her like a daughter, teaching her skills she had never had the chance to learn. James was gruff but kind, always ready with a word of encouragement or a bad joke to make her laugh. And Jack was becoming the center of her world, though she tried hard not to let it show. She would catch herself watching him as he worked, admiring the way he moved, the strength in his shoulders, the gentleness in his hands when he dealt with the horses. She noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the way his voice softened when he spoke to her. She noticed everything about him, and it terrified her. One evening in December, a blizzard hit the valley. The snow fell so thick you could not see 2 feet in front of your face, and the wind howled like a living thing. Everyone gathered in the main house, the ranch hands included, because the bunkhouse was not warm enough for a storm like this. They played cards and told stories, and Willa helped Mary make enough food to feed an army. Jack found her in the kitchen late that night, washing dishes while everyone else slept. You should be resting, he said. You have been working all day. I do not mind, Willa said. I like being useful. Jack picked up a towel and started drying the dishes she washed, working in comfortable silence. After a while, he said, "You know you are more than just useful, right? You are part of this family now." Willa's hand stilled in the warm water. "I do not know how to be part of a family anymore. I forgot what it feels like." "Then let us remind you," Jack said. He set down the towel and turned to face her. "Willa, I need to tell you something, and I do not want you to feel pressured or obligated in any way. If you want me to stop talking, just say the word and we will never mention it again." Willa's heart started to pound. "What is it?" Jack took a deep breath. "I have feelings for you, real, honest feelings. I think I started falling for you that first day in Ruby City, when you stood there so brave and defiant even though your world was ending. Every day since then, I have fallen a little bit more. You are smart and strong and kind, and being around you makes me want to be a better man. But I need you to know that I do not expect anything from you. If you do not feel the same way, that is okay. You will always have a place here, always be safe. I just could not keep this inside anymore." Willa stared at him, her mind reeling. Part of her wanted to run, to protect herself from the vulnerability of caring about someone. But a larger part, a braver part, wanted to reach out and grab this chance at happiness with both hands. "I am scared," she admitted. "I do not know how to trust people anymore. My father destroyed that." "I know," Jack said. "And I am not asking you to trust me overnight. Take all the time you need. I will be here waiting for as long as it takes." Willa looked into his eyes and saw nothing but sincerity and hope. She thought about the past few months, about how safe she felt here, how happy. She thought about the way her heart lifted every time Jack smiled at her, the way she looked for excuses to be near him. She thought about her mother, who had always told her that love was worth fighting for, worth risking everything for. "I am scared," Willa said again. "But I have feelings for you too. I think I have for a while now. I just did not know if I was allowed to feel this way, if I deserved to be happy after everything that happened." Jack stepped closer, his hand reaching up to cup her cheek. "You deserve every happiness in the world, Willa Jensen. And if you will let me, I would like to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." Willa leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will let you." Jack kissed her then, soft and gentle, a promise more than a demand. Willa's hands came up to rest on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her palms. The kiss deepened, and Willa felt something inside her bloom, something warm and golden and full of hope. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Jack rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said. "I know it is fast, and I know we have only known each other a few months, but I love you, Willa. I think I was waiting my whole life to meet you." "I love you too," Willa said, the words feeling right and true. "I did not think I would ever say those words to anyone, but I do. I love you, Jack Quinn." They stood in the kitchen, holding each other while the blizzard raged outside, and Willa felt like she had finally come home. The next few months were the happiest of Willa's life. She and Jack courted properly, with chaperoned walks and stolen kisses when no one was looking. Mary and James were thrilled, having seen the connection between them from the start. The ranch hands teased Jack mercilessly, but he took it all in stride, grinning like a fool whenever Willa was near. In February, Jack asked Willa to go for a ride with him, just the two of them. The weather had cleared and the sun was bright on the snow. They rode to a ridge that overlooked the valley, where you could see the ranch spread out below, smoke rising from the chimneys. "I want to show you something," Jack said, helping Willa dismount. He led her to a flat spot where the snow had been cleared away, revealing a foundation of stones. "This is where I want to build our house. If you agree, that is." Willa's breath caught. "Our house." Jack took both her hands in his blue eyes serious and full of love. Willa Jensen, I know we have not been together long, but I know what I want. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. I want to build a home with you, raise children with you, grow old with you. I want to be your husband if you will have me. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a simple gold band with a small diamond. I know it is not much, he said, but it is honest like everything between us. Willa, will you marry me? Tears streamed down Willa's face, but for the first time in her life, they were tears of pure joy. Yes, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, Jack, I will marry you. I want all of that, everything you just said. I want to spend my life with you. Jack slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. He pulled her into his arms and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. When he set her down, he kissed her deeply, pouring all his love and hope and dreams into that kiss. I promise I will make you happy, Jack said when they finally pulled apart. I promise I will spend every day of my life making sure you never regret saying yes. I could never regret this, Willa said. You saved me, Jack, not just from Rutherford, but from a life without love or hope. You showed me that I am worth something, that I deserve to be happy. I will love you until the day I die. They rode back to the ranch hand in hand, both of them grinning so wide their faces hurt. When they announced their engagement, Mary cried and hugged them both, and James clapped Jack on the shoulder with a proud smile. The ranch hands cheered and demanded to buy Jack drinks, and the whole house felt like it was celebrating. That night, lying in her bed, Willa looked at the ring on her finger and marveled at how much her life had changed. A year ago, she had been trapped in a nightmare with no way out. Now she was engaged to the man she loved, surrounded by people who cared about her, with a future that looked bright and full of possibility. She sent a silent prayer of thanks to her mother, wherever she was, and promised to make her proud. The wedding was planned for May, when the wildflowers would be blooming and the weather would be warm. Willa and Mary spent the spring sewing a wedding dress, a simple but beautiful gown of white cotton with lace at the collar and cuffs. Willa had never owned anything so fine, and she could hardly believe she would wear it on her wedding day. Jack and his father and brothers worked on building the house on the ridge, determined to have it finished before the wedding. It was not large, just 3 rooms and a loft, but it was sturdy and well made, with windows that let in plenty of light and a fireplace big enough to keep them warm through the winter. Jack built the furniture himself, a bed and a table and chairs, pouring all his love into every piece. As the wedding day approached, Willa felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She was marrying Jack, which was what she wanted more than anything, but the idea of being a wife, of having that kind of commitment and responsibility, was daunting. What if she was not good enough? What if she failed him somehow? Mary seemed to sense her worries and sat her down a few days before the wedding. You are going to be just fine, Mary said, taking Willa's hands. Marriage is not about being perfect. It is about choosing to love someone every day, even when things are hard. Jack loves you for who you are, not for who he thinks you should be, and you love him the same way. That is all you need. What if I am not a good wife? Willa asked quietly. What if I do not know how to make him happy? Then you learn together, Mary said. That is what marriage is. Learning and growing and figuring it out as you go. James and I have been married for 30 years and we are still learning, but we do it together, and that makes all the difference. Willa hugged her future mother-in-law, feeling some of her anxiety ease. Thank you, Mary, for everything. You have been more of a mother to me in these past months than anyone since my own mother died. And you are like a daughter to me, Mary said, her voice thick with emotion. I could not be happier that you are joining our family. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, the sky a brilliant blue and the air warm with the promise of summer. Willa dressed in her wedding gown, her hands shaking as Mary helped her with the buttons. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked happy, healthy, loved. She looked like someone who had a future. The ceremony was held outside under a cottonwood tree near the river. The whole ranch turned out, along with friends and neighbors from all over the valley. Jack stood at the front, wearing his best suit, his eyes locked on Willa as she walked toward him. She had no father to give her away, but she did not need one. She was giving herself, freely and completely, to the man she loved. The preacher spoke about love and commitment, about the sacred bond of marriage, but Willa barely heard the words. All she could see was Jack, the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When it was time for the vows, Jack took her hands and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "Willa, I promise to love you and honor you and cherish you for all the days of my life. I promise to stand by you in good times and bad, to be your partner and your friend. I promise to build a life with you that is full of love and laughter and hope. This I swear before God and everyone here." Willa's voice shook, but she got the words out. "Jack, I promise to love you and honor you and cherish you for all the days of my life. I promise to stand by you in good times and bad, to be your partner and your friend. I promise to build a life with you that is full of love and laughter and hope. This I swear before God and everyone here." The preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Jack kissed her to the sound of cheers and applause. Willa kissed him back, pouring all her love and gratitude into that moment, and knew that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The celebration lasted all day and into the night, with food and music and dancing. Willa danced with Jack, with James, with all the ranch hands who had become her friends. She laughed until her sides hurt, and she felt so full of joy she thought she might burst. As the sun set and the stars came out, Jack swept her up into his arms and carried her toward their new house on the ridge. Willa protested, laughing, but Jack just grinned. "I am carrying my bride over the threshold," he said. "It is tradition." He carried her all the way to their house, and when he set her down inside, Willa looked around at the home they would share. It was small and simple, but it was theirs. Jack had lit candles, and the soft light made everything look warm and welcoming. "Welcome home, Mrs. Quinn," Jack said, pulling her into his arms. "Mrs. Quinn," Willa repeated, loving the sound of it. "I am Willa Quinn now. I have a new name, a new life. I do not have to be that scared, broken girl anymore." "You were never broken," Jack said fiercely. "You were bent, maybe, but never broken. You are the strongest person I know, Willa, and I am so proud to be your husband." They made love that night, slow and tender, learning each other's bodies, whispering words of love and devotion. Willa had been nervous, but Jack was patient and gentle, making sure she felt safe and cherished. When it was over, they lay tangled together, Willa's head on Jack's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Jack replied, his arms tightening around her. "Forever and always." Life as a married woman was everything Willa had hoped for and more. She and Jack fell into an easy rhythm, working together during the day and falling into each other's arms at night. They laughed and talked and dreamed together, making plans for the future. Jack taught Willa more about ranching, and she proved to be a quick learner, able to ride and rope almost as well as the men. She earned the respect of the ranch hands, who saw her not as the boss's wife but as one of them, someone who worked hard and pulled her weight. In the fall, Willa realized she was pregnant. She had been feeling tired and queasy for a few weeks, and when she missed her monthly cycle, she knew. She told Jack one evening as they sat on the porch of their house, watching the sun set over the mountains. "I have something to tell you," she said, taking his hand. We are going to have a baby." Jack stared at her, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then a huge grin spread across his face and he let out a whoop of joy. He picked her up and spun her around, kissing her face all over. "We are having a baby," he shouted to the sky. "I am going to be a father," Willa laughed, holding on to him. "Yes, you are. Are you happy?" "Happy." Jack set her down and cupped her face in his hands. "Willa, I am the happiest man alive. We are going to have a baby, our baby. I cannot believe it." "I am scared," Willa admitted. "What if I am not a good mother? What if something goes wrong?" "You are going to be an amazing mother," Jack said firmly. "And nothing is going to go wrong. We will get through this together, just like we get through everything." Mary was thrilled when they told her the news, and she immediately started knitting baby clothes and planning for the birth. James was quieter, but Willa saw the pride and joy in his eyes when he looked at them. The whole ranch seemed to be excited, and Willa felt surrounded by love and support. The pregnancy was difficult at times, especially in the early months when the nausea was overwhelming. But Jack was always there, holding her hair back when she was sick, rubbing her feet when they swelled, bringing her whatever food she could keep down. He was patient and loving and attentive, and Willa fell in love with him all over again. In May, almost exactly a year after their wedding, Willa went into labor. It was long and painful, and there were moments when she was sure she was going to die. But Mary was with her, guiding her through it, and Jack was right outside the door, pacing and worrying. Finally, after 18 hours of labor, Willa gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Jack burst into the room the moment Mary said it was okay, his face pale with worry. But when he saw Willa, exhausted but smiling, holding their son, his expression transformed into one of pure awe. "It is a boy," Willa said weakly. "We have a son, Jack." Jack approached the bed slowly, like he was afraid to disturb them. He looked down at the tiny bundle in Willa's arms, at the perfect little face and the tuft of dark hair, and tears started streaming down his face. "He is perfect," Jack whispered. "He is absolutely perfect. Can I hold him?" Willa carefully passed their son to Jack, and he cradled the baby like he was made of glass. "Hello, little one," Jack said softly. "I am your papa. And I promise I am going to love you and protect you and teach you everything I know. You are the most important thing in the world to me, you and your mama." They named him James, after Jack's father, but called him Jamie. He was a good baby, healthy and strong, with Jack's blue eyes and Willa's determined chin. Willa threw herself into motherhood with the same intensity she brought to everything else, determined to give her son all the love and stability she had never had. Jack was a devoted father, always eager to help with Jamie, always finding excuses to hold him or play with him. He built a cradle that rocked gently, and he would sit beside it for hours, just watching their son sleep. Willa would catch him talking to Jamie, telling him stories about the ranch, about his family, about the world they would explore together when he was older. "You are going to have a good life," Jack would say to Jamie. "Better than your mama and I had. We are going to make sure of it." As Jamie grew, he became the center of their world. He was a happy child, quick to laugh and always curious. He adored his father and would light up whenever Jack came home from working on the ranch. Willa watched them together, her heart so full it ached. This was what family was supposed to be, she thought. This was what love looked like. When Jamie was 2, Willa became pregnant again. This time, she was less scared, more confident. She knew what to expect, and she had Jack and Mary to support her. The pregnancy was easier than the first, and in the spring, she gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Rose after the wildflowers that grew all over the valley. Rose was different from Jamie, quieter and more thoughtful, but just as loved. Jack was overjoyed to have a daughter, and he doted on her shamelessly. Willa would find him singing lullabies to Rose, or dancing with her in his arms, or just staring at her in wonder. "We have a son and a daughter," Jack said one night as they lay in bed, both children finally asleep. "We have everything, Willa. Everything I ever dreamed of." "We do," Willa agreed, snuggling closer to him. "Sometimes I have to pinch myself to make sure this is real, that I am not going to wake up and find myself back in Ruby City, about to be sold to Rutherford." "That will never happen," Jack said fiercely. "You are safe, Willa. You are loved, and nothing will ever change that." The years passed in a blur of work and love and laughter. Jamie grew into a strong, confident boy who loved horses and the outdoors. Rose was quieter but just as determined, always asking questions and wanting to learn everything. They added a third child, another boy they named Thomas, though they called him Tommy, and then a fourth, a girl named Lily. Their house on the ridge, which had once seemed so spacious, grew crowded with children and noise and life. Jack built an addition, adding 2 more bedrooms and a larger kitchen. Willa planted a garden and filled it with vegetables and herbs and flowers, creating a little oasis of beauty in the rugged landscape. Willa never forgot where she came from, never forgot the terror of that day in Ruby City when her father sold her. But she also did not let it define her. She was not a victim anymore. She was a wife, a mother, a partner in a successful ranch. She was Willa Quinn, and she was happy one day when Jamie was 10 and Rose was 8. They rode into Ruby City for supplies. Willa had not been back since that awful day, and she was nervous. But Jack held her hand as they walked down the main street, his presence a comfort. They passed the saloon where it had all happened, and Willa saw a figure standing outside. Her breath caught when she recognized her father. Thomas Jensen looked old and broken, his face lined with years of hard living. He saw her and froze, his eyes widening. Willa stopped, her heart pounding. She had sworn she would never speak to him again, had written him off as dead. But seeing him now, she felt not anger but pity. He had destroyed his own life, and she had built a new one from the ashes he left behind. "Hello, Father," she said quietly, Thomas's eyes filled with tears. "Willa, I heard you got married, that you were doing well. I am so glad. I am so sorry for what I did to you. I know it does not matter now, but I am sorry." Willa looked at him for a long moment, then said, "I forgive you, not for your sake but for mine. I will not carry anger around for the rest of my life. But I do not want you in my life, Father. I have a family now, people who love me and respect me." "You lost the right to be part of that a long time ago." Thomas nodded, fresh tears streaming down his face. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry and that I am glad you are happy. You deserved better than what I gave you." "Yes, I did," Willa agreed. "Goodbye, Father." She turned and walked away, Jack's hand in hers, and did not look back. She felt lighter, like she had finally closed a door that had been hanging open for years. She had forgiven her father, but more importantly, she had forgiven herself for ever believing that his actions were her fault. As they left Ruby City, Jamie asked, "Who was that man, Mama?" Willa looked at her son, at his innocent face, and decided to tell him the truth. "That was my father. He made some very bad choices when I was younger and they hurt me, but I am not angry at him anymore. I have too much good in my life to hold on to old hurts." Jamie thought about that for a moment, then nodded. "I am glad you are happy now, Mama." "Me too, sweetheart," Willa said, ruffling his hair. "Me too." The years continued to pass, each one bringing new joys and challenges. There were hard times, years when the cattle prices dropped or the weather was unforgiving. But Willa and Jack faced it all together, their love growing stronger with each trial they overcame. When James Quinn, Jack's father, passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 75, The whole family mourned. But they also celebrated his life, remembering all the ways he had shaped them and loved them. Jack took over running the ranch, and Willa was by his side, helping make decisions and managing the household. Mary lived for another 10 years after James, watching her grandchildren grow and welcoming new great-grandchildren into the world. When she finally passed, surrounded by family, Willa held her hand and whispered, "Thank you for everything. Thank you for treating me like a daughter, for showing me what a real family looks like. I will never forget you." Mary had smiled and squeezed her hand. "You are a blessing, Willa. I am so glad Jack found you. Take care of him and take care of our family." "I will," Willa promised. "I will." Jamie grew up to be a fine rancher, taking after his father in every way. He married a schoolteacher named Sarah, and they had 3 children of their own. Rose, always the curious one, moved to boys and became a teacher herself, dedicating her life to education and helping others. Tommy stayed on the ranch, working alongside his father and brother, and Lily married a doctor and settled in a nearby town. Willa and Jack watched their children build their own lives, feeling proud of the people they had become. They had given their children something Willa had never had, a stable, loving home where they were valued and supported. And now those children were passing that gift on to the next generation. On their 30th wedding anniversary, Jack took Willa back to the ridge where he had proposed, where their house still stood. The children were all grown and gone, and it was just the 2 of them again, like it had been in the beginning. 30 years, Jack said, looking out over the valley. 30 years since you agreed to marry me. Best decision I ever made asking you. Best decision I ever made saying yes, Willa replied, leaning against him. I never thought I could be this happy, Jack. I never thought I deserved it. You deserve it and more, Jack said, turning to face her. He still looked at her the way he had on their wedding day, with love and wonder and devotion. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Willa Quinn. I love you more today than I did 30 years ago, and I will love you even more 30 years from now. 30 years from now we will be old and gray, Willa said with a laugh. We are already old and gray, Jack pointed out, gesturing to his silver hair. But we are together, and that is all that matters. They stood on the ridge, holding each other, watching the sun set over the land they had built their life on. Willa thought back to that terrified girl in Ruby City, the one who had been sold like property, the one who thought her life was over. She wished she could tell that girl that everything would be okay, that she would find love and happiness and a family that adored her. But maybe she did not need to tell her. Maybe that girl had always known, deep down, that she was stronger than her circumstances. Maybe she had always believed that life could be better, even when it seemed impossible. Jack kissed the top of her head and Willa closed her eyes, breathing in the scent of him of home. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Jack replied. Always and forever. They grew old together on that ranch, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They celebrated birthdays and holidays, weathered storms and droughts, buried friends and welcomed new life. Through it all, they had each other, and that was enough. When Willa was 72, she fell ill with a fever that would not break. Jack stayed by her side, holding her hand, talking to her even when she could not respond. Their children gathered along with their grandchildren, filling the house with love and prayers. On a clear spring morning with wildflowers blooming outside the window and Jack's hand in hers, Willa opened her eyes one last time. Thank you, she whispered to Jack. Thank you for giving me a life worth living. Thank you for choosing me, Jack replied, tears streaming down his face. Thank you for loving me. I will see you again, Willa. I promise. Willa smiled, squeezed his hand, and closed her eyes. She passed peacefully, surrounded by everyone she loved, leaving behind a legacy of strength and love that would echo through generations. Jack lived for 3 more years without her, but everyone could see that part of him had died with Willa. He still smiled, still played with his great-grandchildren, still ran the ranch, but there was a sadness in his eyes that never quite went away. He visited Willa's grave every day, talking to her like she was still there, telling her about the grandchildren and the ranch, and all the little things he knew she would want to hear. On a warm summer evening, Jack Quinn lay down in the bed he had shared with Willa for over 50 years and went to sleep. He did not wake up. They buried him next to Willa, under the cottonwood tree where they had been married, and the whole valley came to pay their respects. Jamie stood at the grave, his own hair now silver, and spoke about his parents. "My father loved my mother with everything he had," Jamie said, his voice breaking. "He saved her life, but she saved his soul. Together, they built something beautiful, something that will last long after we are all gone. They taught us what it means to love someone, to stand by them no matter what. And we will carry that lesson forward, passing it down to our children and their children, because that is what family does. That is what love does." As the sun set over the valley, casting golden light over the graves, a young woman stood at the edge of the gathering. She was Jamie's granddaughter, Willa's great-granddaughter, and she carried her great-grandmother's name. Young Willa had heard the stories all her life, about how her great-grandmother had been saved from a terrible fate by a cowboy with a good heart, about how they had built a life together from nothing, creating a family and a legacy that touched everyone around them. Young Willa looked at the graves and made a promise. She would live her life the way they had lived theirs, with courage and love and integrity. She would make choices that honored their memory. And when she had children of her own, she would tell them the story of Willa and Jack Quinn, the woman who refused to be broken, and the man who showed her what love could be. The story would live on, passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and love can triumph. That a single act of kindness can change someone's entire life. That we are defined not by what happens to us, but by how we choose to respond. And in Ruby City, Idaho, where it all began, the old-timers would still tell the story of the day Jack Quinn tore up a contract and changed a young woman's fate forever. They would talk about the love that grew from that moment, the family that blossomed, the legacy that endured. Because some love stories are bigger than the people who live them. Some love stories become legend, passed down through time, inspiring others to believe in the power of love and the possibility of redemption. Willa and Jack's story was one of those. And it would live forever in the hearts of everyone who heard it, a testament to the truth that love, real love, can overcome anything. That courage and kindness can change the world. And that sometimes, the best things in life come from the worst circumstances, if we are brave enough to reach for them. The ranch continued to thrive, run by Jamie and his children, and eventually by their children. The house on the ridge, where Willa and Jack had raised their family, was preserved and cared for, becoming a symbol of their enduring love. Visitors would come from all over to see it, to stand in the place where two people had built a life together against all odds. And on quiet evenings, when the wind blew through the cottonwood trees and the stars came out over the mountains, some swore they could feel the presence of Willa and Jack, still watching over the land they loved, still holding hands, still together in the way that true soulmates always are. Their story was one of redemption and courage, of standing up for what is right even when it costs you everything. It was a story about the power of love to heal old wounds and create new possibilities. Most of all, it was a story about choosing hope over despair, about refusing to let circumstances define you, about believing that a better future is always possible if you are willing to fight for it. And in the end, that is what Willa and Jack did. They fought for each other, for their family, for the life they wanted to build. And they won. They won in every way that mattered, creating a legacy of love that would inspire generations to come. Their names were carved on a simple stone in the little cemetery by the river. Willa Jensen Quinn and Jack Quinn, beloved parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. But their true monument was not made of stone. It was made of the lives they touched, the family they raised, the love they shared. It was made of memories and stories, passed down through time, ensuring that they would never be forgotten. And so the story of Willa and Jack lives on, a reminder that even when life seems darkest, when hope seems lost and the future looks bleak, love can still triumph. One person can make a difference. One act of courage can change everything. Jack Quinn saw a woman in need and chose to help her, not because he expected anything in return, but because it was the right thing to do. Willa Jensen chose to trust again, to love again, to believe that she deserved happiness. Together, they created something beautiful from the ashes of despair. That is the legacy they left behind. That is the story that will be told for generations. The story of a cowboy who tore up a contract and offered freedom. The story of a woman who accepted that freedom and built a life beyond her wildest dreams. The story of a love that conquered all obstacles and endured beyond death itself. In the Wild West of 1878, where life was hard and justice was rare, two souls found each other and held on tight. They faced every challenge together, celebrated every joy together, and built a family that would carry their values forward into the future. They proved that love is stronger than fear, that kindness is more powerful than cruelty, and that hope is always worth fighting for. Their story began with a contract torn to pieces and ended with a love that would last forever. And that, in the end, is the greatest story of all.